Tidbits from TNT, Tuesday, October 22, 2024. Listen to the full version on the official dinarreport.com website and become our supporter on Patreon. Tishwash. U.S. Ambassador discusses with Oil Minister reopening Iraq-Turkey pipeline. U.S. Ambassador Elena Romansky discussed with Oil Minister Hayyan Abdul Ghani the reopening of the Iraq-Turkey pipeline today, Friday. The ambassador said in a tweet followed by, Al-Yum al-Akhbariya, I was pleased to visit Oil Minister Hayyan Abdul Ghani al-Sawad to check on his health. We also talked about increasing investments by U.S. energy companies to help meet Iraq's energy needs, including how reopening the Iraq-Turkey pipeline will contribute to strengthening the comprehensive U.S.-Iraqi partnership and creating investment opportunities. Tishwash. Banking reform methodology at the central bank, 2016 to 2026. The steps of banking reform that the central bank has been taking since 2016 began when Mr. Ali Mohsen al-Alak was appointed governor of the Central Bank of Iraq on 9 September 2014, which is a difficult and complex stage in Iraq's security and economic history. Iraq was facing security and economic shocks due to the occupation of 40% of the country's territory by the terrorist ISIS and the global drop in oil prices in June 2014 by 75%. He was reassigned again on January 23, 2023 after the emergence of new crises and challenges at the economic, financial and banking levels. Focusing on the lack of control over the unprecedented rise in the US dollar exchange rate and the rise in the annual inflation rate to 7.5% in January 2023. The central bank worked from 2016 to 2020 to address the effects of the economic and security shocks, the most prominent of which was the government's inability to pay employees' salaries on time. The central bank was able to use its foreign exchange reserves and the method of rediscounting treasury transfers from government support in the amount of 16 trillion dinars, and the crisis was overcome at the time. In 2015, in light of these difficult economic conditions, the central bank began to move to develop its plans for the coming years and draw up a methodology for banking reform and structural, technical and administrative development of the central bank. This resulted in the issuance of its first strategy for the years 2016 to 2020, which included 5 main objectives and 140 sub-objectives, 129 of which were achieved, at a rate of 92%. During the years of implementing the strategy. It contributed to establishing the basic structures and pillars for moving to a new stage of financial and banking reform, accompanied by the strategic banking projects plan for the years 2019 to 2023, and the issuance of the second strategy, 2021 to 2023, to complete the achievement of the sub-objectives that could not be implemented in the first strategy, numbering 11 sub-objectives, during which the government continued to resort to the central bank and obtain 30 trillion dinars, and the total amount owed by the government became 46 trillion dinars. During the second term of the governor, which began in 2023, the central bank worked on studying the achievements of the 2 previous strategies and diagnosing the foundations of the desired reform. The efforts to prepare the third strategy continued throughout 2023, and the foundations were built to set the goals for this new strategy for the years 2024 to 2026, which derived its main and sub-goals from the state's general economic policies and its strategy for financial and banking reform adopted by the government in the government program and from Central Bank Law No. 56 of 2004. It included programs with clear goals and initiatives for a period of 3 years in a special, complex economic and financial circumstance fraught with risks and challenges at the level of internal and external economic and financial relations. The third strategy identified the main goals with 7 goals, 24 sub-goals and 75 initiatives to achieve the main and sub-goals, and charted the path for banking and financial reform. According to the following strategic goals: 1. Supporting and enhancing monetary stability. 2. Enhancing digital transformation, activating electronic payment and supporting cybersecurity. 3. Enhancing financial inclusion. 4. Maintaining a sound financial system. 5. Developing the organizational structure and developing human resources capabilities. 6. Enhancing the position of the central bank locally and internationally. 7. Enhancing compliance of the banking sector and the non-banking institutions sector in line with international standards. Programs, policies and initiatives have been identified to achieve the goals, and perhaps the most prominent program is the launch of the National Strategy for Bank Lending in Iraq, 2024 to 2029. And the approval of the Council of Ministers to implement it, which will restructure banking financing in Iraq in addition to leaving the electronic platform and adopting correspondent banks in foreign transfers. Protecting the financial system, enhancing financial inclusion, managing monetary and financial stability, developing oversight and supervision, developing regulation in the banking sector. Completing the development of the infrastructure for digital transformation, licensing digital banks, implementing regulatory policies in the central bank in accordance with the frameworks and technologies adopted in global central banks, raising the capabilities of human resources, developing banking operations, strengthening the bank's internal and external relations, and representing it locally and internationally. What has been presented for the 10 years of the financial and banking reform process confirms that the next 2 years will inevitably result in the transition to comprehensive and radical reform of the Iraqi banking sector and its transformation into a solid sector that contributes to sustainable development. Tishwash. Al-Sudani. Investment opportunities exceeded $100 billion and industrial cities were established in Baghdad. Prime Minister Mohammed Shia al-Sudani held a meeting today, Monday, with the chairman of the Egyptian Al-Suwaidi Group of Companies, Ahmed al-Suwaidi, and a group of directors of Egyptian industrial and commercial companies, in the presence of a number of advisors to the Prime Minister. During the meeting, al-Sudani pointed out the expansion of economic cooperation between Iraq and Egypt, especially in partnerships with the Egyptian private sector, stressing that the investment opportunities offered in Iraq, which were received from Arab and foreign companies, exceeded $100 billion, and they reveal the breadth of economic growth at all levels and fields. The Prime Minister discussed with the Egyptian delegation the study of the economic and financial model of the group in work, and cooperation in the sectors of industry, education, energy, and infrastructure. It also included discussing investment opportunities and partnership in the sector of maximizing petroleum resources, localizing the electrical transformer industry, smart meters that are linked to the electrical grid, and the carbon iron and steel industry. It was agreed to study the establishment of industrial cities in Baghdad, as the group presented a map of projects that will be studied by the advisory board and sectoral bodies. Listen to the full version on the official dinarreport.com website and become our supporter on Patreon. Source: dinarrecaps.com